We're so excited you're here with us this morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, to learn more about Northwestern University. So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to go around and you'll be introduced to the wonderful students helping us out. And then I'll talk a little bit about Northwestern as a whole. And then after you'll get what you came for, we'll have our student panel where you're going to ask questions and our students will be answering them. So to kick off introductions, my name is Hannah Preston and I'm an admissions counselor here at Northwestern's undergraduate admissions office. I'll be moderating our student panel today. I'm originally from Jacksonville, Illinois, which is a small town near Springfield, and currently I am a graduate student in the Higher Education Administration and Policy program within the School of Education and Social Policy here at Northwestern. Now I'm going to hand it off to Ellie, and then we'll popcorn it around the group to introduce ourselves. So take it away, Ellie. It looks like we're having some microphone issues. So why don't we pass it to Sanath first?
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Sanath. I'm a third year this year, studying computer science within the McCormick School of Engineering, along with a minor in psychology and a certificate in the Kellogg Managerial Analytics program. I'm originally from Oakland, California, and when I'm not doing these online information sessions, I am the electrical lead for NASA Student Launch, which is a student organization that competes yearly in a NASA competition to shoot up a model rocket into the sky and then deploy some sort of robot once it comes back down. So Patryk, over to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patryk. I am a current senior at Northwestern studying radio, television, and film and economics. I'm originally from Prospective, Illinois. And just a fun fact about me of what else I do on campus, I'm the film manager for Studio 22, which is the largest film board here at Northwestern that just focuses on distributing grants to students so they're able to make their own productions. Margot, if you want to chat about yourself.
Great, thanks, Patryk. Hi, everybody. My name is Margot. I am also a fourth-year student here at Northwestern, and I'm studying industrial engineering within our McCormick School of Engineering, as well as a minor in computer science. And when I'm not doing these info sessions or in class, you can find me TAing for a few of our introductory computer science courses here at Northwestern. And let's see if the audio issues are fixed. I'll shoot it over to Ellie again.
Okay, take two. I think we're good. My name is Ellie Coleman. I am a junior at Northwestern studying biology and history on the pre-med track. I'm originally from Oakland, California. And when I am not in the library, I'm on Mayfest. So I work on Armadillo Day, which is the largest student-run music festival in the country.
Thank you guys so much. So just a note for the rest of our time today, if you have a question related to anything we're discussing or not related at all, feel free to pop it in the live chat below. Our admissions staff will be more than happy to help you answer them as we go. So first, I want to kick off by telling you more about Northwestern as a whole. And what better place to start than our location. So Northwestern's campus sits on Lake Michigan to the north of Chicago in the suburb of Evanston, Illinois. Being in this location really gives Northwestern the best combination of locations imaginable. On campus, you have the feel of the lake where you can set up a chair, read, or chill, relax. And it's a nice bubble away from the city sphere. Then you have the smaller, homey college town where downtown Evanston is a walkable distance away, and it's home to many Northwestern-themed shops, events, tons of places to get fan gear. And then in your backyard, you have the giant, vibrant city of Chicago, which is full of all the food and opportunities you could think of. So Northwestern's proximity to Chicago is truly a huge advantage to students. Whether that means getting an internship, doing research, or just having something fun to do on the weekends, there are virtually no limits to what you can do. That means going to a Bears or Cubs or Sox game, using your wild card, which is your ID card that you get as a student to get into the Art Institute for free. You can visit Navy Pier, or my personal favorite activity is exploring some of the less touristy neighborhoods like Chinatown or Lakeview and grabbing some lunch in some hidden gem restaurants. So maybe finding your new favorite restaurant. While all your classes as an undergrad will be in Evanston on the main campus, Northwestern does have a downtown Chicago campus where the medical and law schools are located. And the intercampus shuttle, which is a bus that takes you right down to the Chicago campus, takes students for free and with Wi-Fi, and it takes you to an area around the Magnificent Mile, which if you aren't familiar with Chicago or that area, is a high-end shopping area on Michigan Avenue. So if you like shopping, that's the place to be. Once you hop on the shuttle, you can watch some Netflix, and 45 minutes later, you're downtown. Other transportation options between the two areas include the L and the Metro, which are the trains that will get you pretty much anywhere in the Chicagoland area. And the stops for those are right outside campus. So let's transition to academics next. Overall, there are 6 undergraduate schools. First is the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, and it's the largest of the 6 undergraduate schools, and it enrolls about 50% of the student population. Weinberg is home to various social sciences, natural sciences, and humanities degrees. The School of Communication is home to theater and dance, as well as the radio, television, and film major. And the professors in the school are industry-leading artists, scientists, and researchers. Just a bit of info about the theater program. It does not require an audition. That's a pretty common question we get. Next, the Beanan School of Music is a conservatory-style music school with a liberal arts approach, so you have access to the rest of the schools in Northwestern, and an audition is required to get into the majors within the school. Next, Northwestern's McCormick School of Engineering and Applied Science takes a whole brain approach to engineering, and that ensures that students graduate as well-trained engineers, but also as creative problem solvers. McCormick houses 3 times the national average of female faculty and 3 times the national average of engineering students who study abroad. The Medill School of Journalism, Media, and Integrated Marketing Communication is the school with the longest name, but the fewest majors, just 1, and that's journalism. Their specialty in the school is storytelling, and the journalism major contains a practical internship program in the 3rd or 4th year of study, which can cover close to home issues in Evanston or Chicago, or it can bring students as far across the country or around the world. And last but not least, the School of Education and Social Policy, that's my school. Students in this school focus on working to create change, whether that's on a small scale, so for example in a classroom, or on a large scale in government. About 50 students from each undergraduate class begin in this school, but by the time that class has graduated, the number rises to 200, making CESP the most transferred into school. So when you enter Northwestern, you may start off in one home school, but all these schools and the classes within them will be available to you as a student, no matter which school you're in. So no matter which one you end up in, you are going to experience that tremendous amount of academic flexibility. And about 70% of our students study more than one area through adding a second major or a minor or a certificate. There is one key difference to the academic structure at Northwestern that kind of sets it apart from other schools. Instead of the semester system, we go by the quarter system, which basically means that that academic year is divided evenly into 4 10-week quarters, 1 for each season. The fall quarter goes from September to December, the winter quarter goes from January until March, the spring quarter goes from April to June, and if you choose to take classes then, summer is from June to August. Although most students don't take summer classes, and it certainly isn't mandatory or most of the time even necessary, having summer at your disposal means you're free to explore internships or research opportunities in addition to classes. So since you have the remaining 3 quarters to make up each of your academic years, on average, you'll take about 12 courses a year or 4 classes per quarter, compared to maybe 9 or 10 you take in a single year at a school in the semester system. This means that during the course of a 4-year career at Northwestern, you'd be able to take around 48 courses compared to 40. This means you have a lot more room to explore many other disciplines, and is a factor of why so many Northwestern students choose to study multiple areas. And next, I want to touch on the admissions process and financial aid. So we accept the Common Application as well as the Collision Application. The Common App is open for the season. It opened on August 1st. So you are now able to create your profile and start working on your application. Just a note on both of those, if you're unfamiliar, both the Common App and the Collision Application can be used to apply to multiple universities. So you can fill out all your details just once and submit them to as many universities as you like. More important though, probably in your minds, are the deadlines for your application. So we have 2. Early decision applications are due November 1st. If you aren't familiar with early decision, that basically means that if you apply for early decision and you get in, you're under a binding agreement that you will forfeit all other offers from any other school, and you'll enroll in Northwestern when it comes time to do so. So Early decision might be an awesome fit for you if you know that Northwestern is your top choice. But if you're a little hesitant, if you want to be able to make that decision when the time comes to do so, you might be a better fit for the regular decision deadline. The regular decision deadline is January 3rd for this year. So if you apply for early decision, you'll hear back by mid-December. And if you apply during the regular decision period, you will hear back by mid-March. A pretty common question you receive is which parts of the application are most important? And the answer to that question is, I think each part is. We truly have a holistic review process when it comes time to read applications. And this means that we do look at every aspect of your application, no matter what the circumstances are. We start at your transcripts, looking at how you challenge yourself academically. And we do this also keeping in mind where you went to high school, as well as what opportunities and resources were available to you at which time. While we accept both the ACT and the SAT and SuperScore for both typically, in light of COVID-19, we have opted for a test optional policy, which means that we are not requiring any test scores for the time being. So if you formerly submitted a test score to us, but you don't want us to consider that when reviewing your application, there's an option to indicate that on your application. So your application will give you a variety of essay prompts that you can choose from for your first essay, but your supplemental essay for Northwestern will be why Northwestern. This essay is truly your only opportunity on the application to share your own voice with the admissions staff. So you should use that space as well as you can. You have 350 words to be as specific as possible about why you see yourself as a future Wildcat. What in particular draws you into Northwestern and the things that we offer, and why do you see yourself as a good fit for Northwestern? And the last thing I'll touch on is letters of recommendation. You want to make sure these letters are a positive and knowledgeable reflection of skills and attributes that you possess. Northwestern requires two. The first has to come from a guidance counselor, and the second has to come from a core subject teacher. You have the option of submitting more than two letters, of course. For example, if you had a close relationship with an out-of-school mentor or another non-core subject teacher, it might be helpful to include a third letter. Keep in mind, though, that these additional letters should provide an alternative perspective about you as a student and as a person, and be sure to prioritize quality over quantity, because two letters is certainly definitely enough. So on the topic of financial aid, if you're looking into any other schools in the Big Ten, you'll notice that a Northwestern education has the most expensive price tag of them all by far. However, the past 10 years have shown that on average, our students graduate with the least amount of debt of students in the Big Ten after graduation. You may ask, how is that possible? To put it simply, we cost a lot, but we also help a lot. The free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA is probably what you know it by, is what we use to make the education affordable. When you fill out the FAFSA, you'll get a number that's called the EFC, or the estimated family contribution, which is the amount of money the federal government says you and your family should be able to contribute to your college tuition based on your parents' income, assets, and a couple other things. Our president created an initiative to make Northwestern affordable for all students. So not only do we meet 100% of demonstrated need, but we're also a loan-free school. What that means is whatever cost is left over after taking out your EFC will be covered for you by Northwestern through grants, scholarships, and the occasional work study. We're also a need-blind institution for domestic students, so we don't take into account your financial situation when making your admission decision. If you're curious what your financial aid package might look like, we have a net price calculator on our website. If you enter some information about your finances, this tool can tell you a rough estimate of what your estimated family contribution might be. And please note that there are a ton of factors that weigh into this final price tag. So the number's definitely not final, but it should give you a pretty good idea. So now that I've given you a ton of information to think about, we'll begin our student panel with some questions, so be sure to keep dropping them in the chat function. First, I'll start by going around the whole group to answer this first question, beginning with Patryk, and then you can pass it off. So Patryk, could you start out by telling us what your favorite class in Northwestern has been so far?
Sure. So actually, I was able to take a class my sophomore year fall, which was called Power Entertainment. And kind of something that I've always been interested in, especially in entertainment, hasn't necessarily been the creative aspects of it, whether that be writing or directing, things like that. It's more always been the business side. So to be able to take a class that really did focus on all mediums, whether that was podcasts, video, TV, film, to be able to focus on all of that, but more from a business aspects, was fantastic. So it was kind of just talking about who are the big players in terms of streaming services or in terms of music, what, like Spotify and Apple Music, that they were really kind of owning the game at the moment. So that class was definitely both educational for me because it was something that I want to pursue after college, but was also very interesting because of the professor and the way that he was able to teach the course.
Thank you so much. Could you answer the same question, Margot?
Yeah, absolutely. So mine's a little bit less fun sounding, but my favorite class that I've taken at Northwestern was actually Introduction to Computer Science. And the reason that I loved it so much was because I went into college thinking that the one thing that I would hate the most would be computer science. And like I had to take it for my major, but it was just that introductory class. So I was like, whatever, I'll just get through it. But it ended up being like straight up my favorite class, even out of the more like interesting sounding ones that I've taken. I thought the instruction was really, really amazing. And the way that it was presented was just one of those courses where no matter how much experience you've had, or if you think that you'll like it or not, like everyone was able to succeed and do really well. And that's the reason that I ended up adding a CS minor after all. So I really loved that class.
Thanks, Margot. All right, next up, Sanath, I have a question for you. Did you ever feel like the environment was too competitive or too cutthroat? Did you ever get a cutthroat vibe? Would you describe Northwestern's experience as a competitive one?
Yeah, that's a good question because Northwestern is a rigorous school and academics at times can be challenging, but I've never ever felt like Northwestern was a competitive school. One story I like to tell a lot is when I go into office hours, oftentimes I don't even get the answers I need from the professor. It's actually from another student that has also gone to office hours, and maybe I can help them out with some part of the course that they need help with, and they can help me with what I'm struggling with. So I definitely think it's much more of a collaborative vibe as opposed to a competitive one. And while Northwestern students definitely like to push themselves and do well in their classes, it's never at the expense of another student. And it's never something that you would want, or anyone that I know would want another person to feel bad about. I think we're always looking to help the other people in our class, and we're all looking to grow together. So yeah, definitely collaborative. I've never felt any sort of competitive vibe at Northwestern.
Thanks, enough. So I have one for Ellie, and my question is, what is campus life like during the winter?
That's a good question, especially coming from California, where we don't really have a winter. Something that I was definitely worried about. But honestly, I didn't notice that big of a difference between fall and winter, just because there's so many good spaces indoors where you can interact with students and have that same like communal experience. For example, my favorite spot to study is Norris. So upstairs there's a Starbucks, and there's decorations out for all the holidays, some festive music, and it feels very cozy. Also, a small thing that I really appreciated that Northwestern does is they put lights up on all the trees around campus, which I think is really pretty. And makes it feel not as dark. So further classes continue as normal, and there are still like clubs and opportunities to interact with other students that just aren't as much outside. So I'd say student life keeps on rolling. It just moves indoors.
Perfect, thank you. All right, next up, I have one for Patryk. And I would like to ask you, Patryk, how easy is it to take classes from other undergrad schools? How easy is it to mix and match?
Sure. So actually, this pertains to me specifically because I started off as a biomedical engineering student on the pre-med track my freshman year. And after kind of 3 months, I was like, I'm not as fascinated by medicine as I thought I was going to be. So I really used those next 6 months during my fall, my winter, and my spring to figure out what I wanted to major in. And the ease with which I was able to take classes within the other schools was actually phenomenal. I was able to take a screenwriting course in School of Comm, or I was also able to do an introductory course in journalism, at the same time also doing an American economy, a law of American economy class in Weinberg. So I was jumping around to different schools and taking so many different classes that you really, even when you do settle down on a major, when I have with RTVF and econ, I've still been able to take so many different classes in different schools to still make sure that I'm getting this liberal arts education that I came here for. So yeah, there should be no worry, and really nothing should hold you back from taking any type of classes that you would like to take, even when you've settled down on a major that you really enjoy.
That's a great transition to this next question. Back to you, Ellie. What is it like to pair together history and biology? What's that course path like?
That's a really good question because it is a very random pairing. So similar to Patryk, I came into Northwestern not knowing what I wanted to do, but thinking that the only thing I didn't want to do was science. So I didn't take any sort of science classes freshman year, and I loved all my history classes. And then I had an academic identity crisis, decided that science actually was for me. But luckily, the flexibility with Northwestern's quarter system allowed me to keep my history minor, which was really exciting for me. And personally, I really love the interdisciplinary aspects of taking and studying two completely different subjects. And I think that's something Northwestern really encourages, not only with the logistical ease of the quarter system and taking classes across undergraduate schools, but it's sort of a mindset and mentality that's definitely pushed by Northwestern and encouraged. And I think that students embrace. And for me, I really like being able to study two completely different things because you tend to study like science and humanities in different ways. But I found that you can kind of take the lens that you would normally take to a history reading or a historical event and like think about it and how do you see science in a more holistic way and vice versa. So I really liked combining it, and it's definitely like not a problem in terms of finishing up majors or minors or getting into those classes.
Perfect. Thanks, Ellie. So this next one, I'm going to spit right back to you, Ellie, and then we're going to go around and popcorn if that's okay. What are each of your course loads like on a weekly basis? And is it doable to have jobs? Are you able to join clubs? Like, what's your involvement look like on top of academics?
I'd say there's definitely a good amount of coursework just because Northwestern is a rigorous school, but all students are very involved in tons of other things. So I'd say students care just as much about their extracurriculars as their academics. I'd almost consider them equal in terms of clubs that they're involved in. I mean, on top of my coursework, and pre-med does sometimes get the rap, so does engineering, and Sanath and Margot can talk to that, of having a lot of work, but I've still been able to play club soccer. I'm in Mayfest. I'm holding this job as a tour guide. So there's definitely time to do other things, and it's completely doable.
I can go ahead and chat next. So yeah, I'd totally mirror everything that Ellie just said. I think one thing to note is that your course load is really going to be as heavy as you want to make it. Like obviously there's, sometimes not flexibility and you have to take a really hard course one quarter. But you really do have the flexibility, just going back to the whole quarter system thing, to, take 3 classes one quarter or take 5 or 4 another quarter and kind of balance it out, sort of depending on what you want your course load to look like. So yeah, like engineering does sometimes get a rap for having a lot of like hard classes or having a hard course load. But again, I have not at all found that has like inhibited my social life or my college experience as a whole whatsoever. I'm able to still work quite a lot. So I hold the work study job, this job. I'm able to TA for CS courses, like I mentioned in the beginning. I joined a business club on campus as well. So obviously those are going to kind of ebb and flow as far as how much time I can dedicate to each. But I've never once found that like I'm just working day and night and don't have time to see my friends or go get dinner in the city or things like that.
I can jump in on this one. Yeah, I want to echo that as well. I think that especially in terms of like coursework, it's so easy to choose as to how you want your week to go. I think especially with, for example, for me with RTVF and econ, I want to find a great split between doing analytical classes while also at the same time having the chance to be creative, which I think is very important. And I think with any type of major or whatever classes you're able to take, you are able to find kind of a nice mix of that. So, if you are struggling a little bit more with an analytical course at the same time, you could later that day be going to a class you really love that might be, allow for you to be more creative and just some more downtime. We have like classes like intro to painting, intro to drawing that kind of just like allow for you to relax at the same time that you do take classes. But yeah, I've also been able to participate in so many extracurriculars during my time here and hold a work study job the entire time I've been here. So yeah, even though you do have some rigorous classes that you have to take, you are able to kind of live a life outside of college as well.
Yeah, I'll finish up. I definitely want to echo what everyone has said. I've taken 4 classes every quarter for the most part, for every quarter, my entire time at Northwestern. I'm part of 2 clubs every quarter, and held a job and have plenty of time for social life. One thing I do want to kind of point out is that Northwestern has an internal course evaluation system called CTEX, which students fill out anonymously, and you can kind of learn from the students that have taken that class before you. And one of the parts of that CTEC is how long that course take you per week on average. So if you're worried about maybe like a class that you know might be a little bit challenging for you in the future, you can plan a quarter around it by taking maybe a couple classes that take less time per quarter, and then that class that maybe you're a little bit afraid of. So you can always sort of balance out your quarter to, even like in the engineering school, which might get a bad rep. So your quarter is never too academic heavy. So yeah, back to you, Hannah.
Thank you guys. So right back to you, Sanath. With regards to the Kellogg School Certificate programs, when do most students complete the program and how manageable are the extra courses?
Right, so I think they're actually pretty manageable. I actually got a lot of the courses and the prereqs that I need to take to get into the Kellogg program. Also fit it into my major through sort of the McCormick basic engineering requirements, but most students will apply in the sophomore year just because there are a lot of prereqs for that program. So you start working on the math and the econ that you need for during the freshman year, and then apply either your sophomore year, or maybe you're not ready by your sophomore year, by your junior year. And generally speaking, you'll finish that up by the junior and senior year. But I've enjoyed the Kellogg classes a lot. I think there's multiple ways to get involved with sort of business on campus, and the Kellogg certificate is definitely a great option if you're thinking about that.
Thanks, Sanath. All right, next up, I have one for Ellie, and that is, what kind of support is given to those that are on the pre-med track?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that I can speak to because, like I mentioned, I decided to pursue the pre-med track or join the pre-med track after my freshman year. And I don't have a lot of experience, and there's not really many doctors in my family, so I kind of had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And I met with my initial advisor. So right when you walk on campus, you'll get paired, at least in Weinberg, and I think it's similar with like a general advisor. And then at Northwestern, for every major or minor or that you add, you'll get another advisor, as well as there's advisors that are specific to certain career paths, like health professions. So there's health professions advising, and you can look that website up. So my general advisor referred me to health professions advising, and then I was able to meet with someone who specializes in helping students navigate the pre-med track. So that was super helpful for figuring out what courses I need to take, MCAT preparation, things like that. And then in terms of support with the classes, this is not exclusive to pre-med, but with classes that are notoriously harder, there's lots of extra support, like drop-in tutoring. Personally, I've taken advantage of peer-guided study groups. So that's just, it's around 10 students that meet with one upperclassman or a student that has taken the class in the past and excelled with it, and you can kind of work through problems, cater it to what people need. So there's support specifically for pre-med, as well as just hard classes on campus.
Thanks, Ellie. Perfect. All right, so next one goes to Margot, and that question is, are most undergraduate classes taught by professors or TAs? And also, how invested are the professors in your education and success at Northwestern?
Yeah, great question. So most all classes are taught by professors. Only in very rare occasions have I had it where there's been some kind of situation where the professor has had a medical emergency or something, and then perhaps a postdoc or a graduate student has had to step in. Never are classes just fully taught by TAs. That never happens. And professors are really, really invested in your education. Like, I know everyone's going to say that, but it's really genuinely true. Professors can't just like give a lecture and then go home and not talk to you or not care about your success. They're required to have office hours every week, at least once, and they often will have them several times per week. And like, if the office hours times don't work for you, which oftentimes I've had that be the case, I have another class during their office hours. If you just shoot them an email, they're more than happy to set aside time to just meet with you personally and chat. I really think that like the way that professors approach their classes are going to make it so that you're not going to slip through the cracks. They really make it so that if you're seeking help and you are struggling a little bit and you need a little bit of, one-on-one advice or counseling in whatever subject they're teaching, they're absolutely more than willing to take the time to help you out. So yeah, and all of my years at Northwestern, I've never once had a professor who was just like putting students off to the side and not caring about their role.
Thank you, Margot. All right, so next one goes to Patryk, and that is, how does Northwestern interact with the greater Chicago area? What type of community engagement is available to students, and is this a priority amongst students and faculty?
Definitely. So I think the way that you can interact with Chicago is kind of never endless. I know that, so I'm in DSP, which is a professional business fraternity here on campus. And a lot of community service work that we do through the fraternity itself is in Chicago. And, whether that's kind of just go into shelters to just try to, have the animals have a little bit better of a time. We kind of like go and take care of them. We're also trying to plan as many events this quarter as we can to just go help out in Chicago and the Evanston area. In terms of more like professional things, you are also able to do internships in Chicago, which a lot of our students do. We have CFS, which is a program called Chicago Field Studies, which is basically a program that you apply for, and then you receive an advisor who is going to assist you in finding any type of internship that you're looking for in a variety of industries. So we've had students who've entered at Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, Pepsi. I was able to actually do an internship my sophomore year at an advertising agency. And then through CFS, I was able to receive credit for that class. Just during that 1 week, I was able to go attend a class and just actually talk about the business world and kind of tips as to how you should be approaching it. And you're able to receive credit for that, just so it's also valuable, and they respect your time during the week as well. So you're not trying to cram in too much at once. But whether that's just kind of volunteer opportunities or anything more professional, or just going into the city for a fun time with your friends, the opportunities are kind of never endless to go explore the city itself.
Thanks, Patryk. All right, so next one goes to Sanath. And I'd like to ask, how long did it take you to feel at home at Northwestern?
Gosh, I mean, right off the bat, I guess. Northwestern has this really great thing at the beginning of freshman year called Wildcat Welcome. It's just sort of your orientation week on campus, and you do lots of fun things. I'm still friends with what's called your peer advisor group. So you get a peer advisor who's an upperclassman at Northwestern, and then you get some freshmen that are within your school of study or your home school as well. And two or three of the people in that peer advisor group make up my kind of core group of friends so far through Northwestern. So you can really make some of your best friends on day one, if you're lucky. And then you really get to know campus that really well during Wildcat Welcome. Your peer advisor is a great resource for you. You go to Six Flags, I mean, not this year, but hopefully in future years, which is all really fun. So you can feel at home sort of immediately. And then over time, what I've found is that you make friends sort of every quarter, right? So those are like new people in your classes, in the clubs that you join, and you really start to like feel more ingrained in the community the further along you get in your Northwestern experience. So it starts off feeling great, and it only gets better as you go on, as you get to know the school and the surrounding community.
Thanks, Sanath. Perfect. All right, so next one goes to Ellie. And what non-academic clubs were you most excited to see at Northwestern? And have you taken part in any of them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I definitely came in having no idea what I wanted to pursue. I mean, I was undecided in my major, just kind of wanted to explore. And I participated in the club fair, which is where Norris, the student center, is just filled with tables of clubs ranging from academic and to everything non-academic. So you've got all the club sports, you've got theater focus, you've got political focus. So there's really anything. And I remember I didn't know there was an outside portion to the club fair, and I needed a pillow for my bed. So I bought a pillow, and then I walked outside, and there were like double the tables that had been inside. So I was just kind of wandering around with a pillow, which is, I got recognized by a few clubs called me out. That I ended up trying out for sailing team, for example. And then the club that I ended up in, which is also non-academic, is Mayfest, which is the music festival. So we play in the music festival. And that's something I had no intention. I did not come into college thinking I'm going to help produce a music festival. And then I just met with people at the table, filled out the application, and went for it. And I think Northwestern club culture is so fun because students are so passionate about their clubs. And they're really willing to welcome anyone that shares that passion, whether or not you have experience specific to that club or not. So again, I think whether you know what you want to do in terms of clubs, there's probably one existing. You could create it if it isn't, or you have no clue. You can just wander around that club fair or pop into Zoom meetings this year for those clubs and find the right fit for you. And there's definitely something out there that some club that would love to welcome you in.
Thanks, Ellie. Next one is for Margot. And the question is, do Northwestern students pursue research abroad, and can they?
Just to make sure I heard that, did you say research or research abroad specifically?
Research abroad specifically.
Okay, sure. So I don't personally know a ton about research abroad, but I do absolutely know that it is something that is very possible for students. Research in general at Northwestern is really, really accessible to undergraduate students. There's about $3.5 million, I think, every year that's dedicated strictly to undergraduate research, which is a ton of money and basically means that any research opportunity that you take, be it abroad or local, is going to be paid. So I have heard of one girl who I believe really wanted to do research abroad. She was not studying anything STEM related, which I think is a preconception a lot of people have about doing research in college. But she really wanted to study the sociology of music festivals. And in order to do that, she was able to secure a grant from the school and travel abroad and within the United States to visit a bunch of really huge music festivals and go and have a good time, as well as sort of analyze the different sociological things going on there. And then she wrote a big paper on it, came back and presented her research. So basically, she just had an awesome time for several months and got the school to pay for it, as well as doing research during that time, which is a really awesome opportunity that I think you can't say a lot of places can offer. So yeah, research abroad is absolutely something you can do. You can get grants to go over the summer. Typically, grants are going to be for $3,000 to $4,000, and you can apply that money to your plane ticket, housing while you're there, and just figuring things out while you're abroad. I also know that for a lot of students that choose to study abroad, specifically during the fall quarter is really common. You can pursue internships or research at whichever institution you're studying at there. So really, research is super, super accessible to students, and you can absolutely go abroad to pursue your research as well.
Thanks, Margot. Perfect. All right, so next one goes to Patryk. Is it common for students to have internships or jobs?
Oh, totally. So actually in my time here, I've been able to participate in 3 internships. And everybody, I know a lot of students, I think it's close to, I want to say the stats, like 90-something% of students actually do engage in at least one internship during their time here. Or at least some sort of pre-professional experience. So it's really common for students to do things such as CFS that I mentioned before. There's also EPICS, which is more in the School of Communication, which are also able to receive course credit for. But in my time, I was actually able to intern with an advertising agency my sophomore year, and then kind of fell in love with advertising and did a publishing, worked more on the publishing side for advertising in my internship last summer, went to New York. And then kind of from that was able to receive an internship at Hulu this past summer on their ad ops team. And people do phenomenal things, whether it's things like investment banking, consulting, advertising, even trying to go into theater or something more film related. But everybody kind of really tries to go for pre-professional experiences here, and it's something that they're very grateful for.
Thanks, Patryk. Perfect. All right, so next one goes to Sanath. Have you found that classes are extremely fast-paced due to the quarter system?
No, I think professors know that you're in a 10-week quarter and they structure out their curriculum kind of with that in mind, right? So even like with like a class like multivariable calculus, which is something you need to take if you're in the McCormick School of Engineering, they actually structure that into 2 quarters, right? So it's a sequence. So even though that might be like an intense class that you might fear, it's stretched out into a longer period of time, so you can really sort of dig into the material over that time period. So no, I've never really felt that it's too fast. And even if it does, I don't think it's specifically because of the quarter system. And it's important to know that you have tons of resources around you to help you out if you ever do feel that way. Like, professors are always a great place for office hours. TAs will also often host office hours. And for the introductory level courses, there's peer guide study groups, which are kind of 0 credit classes that you can take part in. You just meet once a week with your group and study together for a class. So I don't think it's ever due to the quarter system. And if it's just a challenging class, there's plenty of resources that you can take advantage of.
Thanks, Sanath. Perfect. All right, and the next one I have goes to Ellie. What are the dorms and food like?
Very, very good question. So Northwestern has 2 types of residential experiences. So there's the typical residential hall, and then there's also residential colleges. So both of those, there's no big difference in the buildings, but the only difference is the residential colleges are themed. This does not mean you have to be studying anything related to the theme. It just means you have to have an interest in that theme. And then they will have faculty for fireside chats. Maybe they'll take you downtown to explore something related to that theme. I know the communications college has a movie theater for screenings. So it's just specific, and you'll be living with people who have a shared interest. And then the residential halls are for anyone who wants to live there, but there's still a sense of community. So all the residential halls and buildings on campus are grouped into little neighborhoods where you'll have little like experiences. Like the residential hall I was in, every Wednesday had a snack chat. So in the common area of my dorm, there would be tons of good food, chocolate fountains, fresh fruit, which was exciting. Every week, and that would be for my dorm and then the 2 dorms closest by, and you'd get to interact with people who live around you. There's also quite a range for rooms, so you can have your typical dorm experience in the sense of having one roommate with a bathroom down the hall, or you could have suite style living, which would be 2 rooms with a small common area and a bathroom. And those are probably the most common for underclassmen. There's some, if you're in upperclassmen, there's some more apartment style dorms. And then in terms of food, Northwestern has 6 dining halls on campus, including Norris University Center. So you've got unlimited meal swipes, which means that freshman year, you can swipe in, you have access to all the food you want. There's always vegetarian options, and Northwestern caters to all dietary restrictions. So if you have something more specific, you can just reach out to the staff and they'll make sure that there's something you can eat. And unlimited also means that you can swipe in to get that cup of cereal and coffee for your your like 10 p.m. study snack on your way to the library, which I've definitely taken advantage of. And then Norris also has food vendors. So there's a Dunkin' Donuts, a Starbucks, there's a sandwich place, there's a burger place, and you'll get some dining dollars. So at $125 a quarter is what it was my freshman year. I think it stayed the same to spend on those types of eating experiences.
Thanks, Ellie. Perfect. All right, so keeping in the theme with living arrangements, Sanath, was the adjustment from moving from Oakland to Evanston difficult? And is the community diverse? What's that look like?
Right. I mean, in some ways, it's very different, right? I wouldn't say difficult, but it's different. I personally love my mom's cooking. I think she's the best cook on the planet. And, you know, the dining halls are very good for what they are, right? So like, there's always something I want to eat at the dining halls. And food was definitely something that I was most concerned about. What I really like about Evanston is Evanston. It's like there's 8 different coffee shops that you can check out. There's all kinds of great restaurants. And it's a really diverse community, so you can take advantage of that, right? So Oakland, speaking of a little plug for Oakland, Oakland's a very diverse place. There's lots of great food. You can meet lots of different people. Northwestern values diversity a lot, and as does Evanston. So you can meet, I've met tons of different people that I probably wouldn't have if I stayed back home. I've taken advantage of great food. And you know, you get used to living with a roommate, you get used to living in a dorm. It's part of the college experience, and I've grown a lot because of it. Never difficult, just different. I've really appreciated sort of the experience that I've gotten here at Northwestern. Yeah.
Thanks, Sanath. Perfect. All right, so next one goes to Margot. And could you talk a little bit about what a distribution requirement is and what that looks like in the scheme of your education overall?
Yeah, absolutely. So distribution requirements basically refer to those more generalized classes that you're going to have to take to fulfill whichever requirements for your major or the school that you're placed in. And distribution requirements are going to look different depending on which of the 6 schools that you're placed in. So for example, if your major is based in the College of Arts and Sciences, the distribution requirements that you'll have to fulfill will differ from the ones that I would have to fill in the McCormick School of Engineering. So because I don't have a major or minor based in the College of Arts and Sciences, I can really only speak to the ones in McCormick. But for example, with the engineering school, all students are going to have to take a 2-quarter sequence called Design Thinking and Communication, or DTC, which will fulfill both English and design credits, actually. And this is a really awesome course. Essentially, what it does is it pairs you with 3 other first-year engineering students. You'll be given a problem in either the Evanston or Chicago area with an actual client, and you basically have those 10 weeks of the quarter to solve the problem. It's not one of those standard classes where you sit in the big lecture hall and you take notes and then regurgitate the info for an exam. It's a really, really hands-on experience and a really great way to sort of get that introduction to engineering first and foremost, the second that you get to campus. We also just have general engineering requirements, so things that are going to be really relevant regardless of if you're studying industrial engineering or chemical engineering or biomedical. regardless of what your major is, things like physics, a little bit of basic coding, things like that all students are going to have to take and fulfill. And obviously, these requirements are not going to be the same if you're studying other things or in different schools, but each school will have that set of distribution requirements where you'll have a lot of freedom to decide which classes you want to take that will fill those requirements. And this is really awesome too, because a lot of students who are in the College of Arts and Sciences, for example, you do have a math distribution requirement, but you can get to college and not take math ever again. There's a lot of classes that you can take that can still fulfill those requirements without being, like super math heavy or things like that. So distribution requirements, you just have a lot of freedom to determine the classes that you want to take. And they're really meant to help give you that really well-rounded education.
Thanks, Margot. That's awesome. All right, so next one goes to Patryk. So you already kind of touched on this a little bit so far, but Northwestern doesn't offer an undergraduate business major. Could you tell us what some pathways to business might be for Northwestern students who are interested and what opportunities there are for undergrads?
Yeah, definitely. So besides not having a business major, we do offer a business institutions program certificate. So it's called BIP, where you are able to do some introductory economics course as well, then kind of taking, I believe it's like 4 extra courses that focus a little bit more on business. We also offer an IMC certificate, which is an integrated marketing certificate that focuses more on the marketing side of things. But besides that, really type of anything that you want to go into in business, anything you want to major in works. So a lot of students that do want to go into business end up studying economics, which I'm doing. But I know a bunch of people who are also doing statistics as a major, which would also be in the Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences. But besides that, there's also learning and organizational change within CESP. And yeah, kind of just really when you want to go into business, people are just really looking for things that you're passionate about. And if that includes things such as economics or math or statistics or anything like that, go for it. But really, besides that, you do have a BIP certificate or IMC, but really anything you want to major in works.
Awesome, Patryk. Thank you. All right, so next I have one for Ellie. And what kind of honors programs are available for NU students? Is it doable to balance requirements with other aspects of campus life?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by honors programs. Does anyone else want to hop in?
I have the Brady Scholars Program and Ethics.
Oh, okay. I got it. Okay. So more like specific programs. Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities at Northwestern beyond just majors and minors and certificates to get involved in different sort of academic communities. So for me, I'm part of the Brady Scholars Program in ethics and civic life. So I just saw a posting and it was saying like students interested in this, fill out this application. So I applied, I interviewed, and now I'm part of a 14 student cohort so the program includes 3 philosophy classes sophomore year, and then junior year, the intention was to go abroad. Obviously things have been a little bit messed up. And then senior year, you work on a community service project in Evanston. So it's supposed to be tying together sort of ethics and then getting that global perspective and then doing something within your community that like helps and gives back to Evanston. So that's an example of something that isn't necessarily specific to an academic subject. People in my cohort are engineers, are journalists, are pre-med, are social policy. So there's a huge range of students that are just brought together by a passion for wanting to do something in the community. And I think that's an example. And I don't know a ton of specifics about other programs, but I know there are programs like Kaplan, which is for students really interested in the humanities. I know I think American Studies is a major, but it has a similar process where you can apply and then take specific classes. So there's lots of opportunities at Northwestern to really get to know students that share a similar passion, as well as get to know a specific group of faculty and have a really unique experience. So that's something, again, that I didn't really think about applying to college, but was really excited about the opportunities that Northwestern has, like the Brady Scholars Program. And it's been super amazing to be a part of. And I'm really, really glad that I decided to apply to it.
Thanks, Ellie. Sorry about the confusion. All right. So next I have one for Sanath. Oh, actually, let's go to Margot. Could you tell us a little bit more about Northwestern's? Oh, okay. Sanath. could you tell us a little bit more about Northwestern's whole brain engineering program? What does that mean? And have you or others taken advantage of it?
Yeah, fantastic. Whole brain engineering is a term you'll hear thrown around a lot when talking about Northwestern's engineering program. And it's basically the idea that the left side of your brain is supposed to be used for, or is used for analytical sort of things like math, data science, things like that. But the right side of your brain is where the creativity lies. And to be a true engineer, you need both parts, right? So a great example of this would be a first year course called Design Thinking Communication, or DTC for short, that you'll take twice during your freshman year. DTC is a class where you're paired with a real life client and you prototype, design, and give them a solution to whatever problem they're facing. So like a really famous one that I thought was really cool was a few years ago, the Shed Aquarium, which is in Chicago, had a problem with their penguins slipping on the artificial ice. So they reached out to Northwestern, and a DTC group actually came up with little purple, of course, slippers to go on the penguins' feet, which are really cute. And they loved it so much that they decided to use them for real. So I haven't gone to the Shed Aquarium yet. I plan to, but apparently if you go, you can still see them wearing it, which is really, really cool. Other ways that whole brain engineering sort of plays out is that you'll have a theme requirement, which is you're actually required to take 7 classes outside of McCormick in social sciences and humanities, which I've really loved and have used to great advantage to help fulfill my minor in psychology. And I know all sorts of many other engineers who have taken advantage of the theme requirement to sort of expand their boundaries and learn about topics that maybe they're not interested in a career in, but it certainly interests them. So I think the whole brain engineering is something that really drew me to Northwestern. And it's something that a lot of students are really happy about, and just a great philosophy, I think, for an engineering program.
All right, thanks, Sanath. All right, so that's almost all the time we have for today's panel, but I would love if our panels could go around one last time to answer one last question. And that's probably the most important question of all. Why Northwestern? What made Northwestern stand out to you in your college search, and why did you choose to attend? Sanath, would you like to start off?
Yeah, sure thing. So I think maybe like a theme from this information session, hopefully, is that whatever you want to do at Northwestern, you can probably do it, right? So you have tons of flexibility in terms of academics, right? You can take any class from any of the 6 undergraduate schools. I'm personally doing a major in McCormick. I have a certificate in Kellogg, which is the graduate school, and then a minor from Weinberg. So that's what brought me to Northwestern originally. And in terms of what has really stood out to me is that you have other students, like you can see in this information panel, that are also doing all kinds of really cool stuff, right? Across many different majors. So it's kind of crazy to me that some of my friends that I have a good time with on the weekends, like going to shows, exploring Chicago, whatnot, are also have all these cool passions. Like one of my best friends is a double major in physics and viola performance. So it's awesome to be able to talk to him about like quantum physics and then go hear him play in the Bean Orchestra. I mean, that's just something that's really, really cool. And personally, that's like a standout, amazing, unique thing about Northwestern. So yeah, Ellie, over to you.
Yeah, so my why Northwestern when I was applying definitely stemmed from a very practical, logistical thing in terms of I wanted a city, I wanted athletics, I wanted academics, and I wanted a campus. And when you check all those little boxes on the college filter websites, you don't end up with a whole lot of schools. And then again, like just what Sanath said, what really made me choose Northwestern specifically was the ability to study absolutely whatever you wanted without the pressure of having to choose early, which obviously I knew that I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it ended up working out really well for me, being able to choose a pre-med path a year in, having taken no science classes, was really, really incredible. And not only was it logistically possible with the quarter system, for example, but the support that I got from every single advisor and professor that I met with about it, they were just so supportive, didn't give me a second look. And I think that speaks to the community that really encourages people to pursue whatever they want, whether or not it makes sense on paper. And I think because Northwestern is so unique in having athletics and a city and a college town, it really is a very vibrant community. And that's why I stay at Northwestern, and that's my current why Northwestern. So Margot, you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. Yeah, so my Northwestern had absolutely nothing to do with academics, actually. When I was in my senior year of high school, I had no idea what I wanted to study, like not even a slight inkling. So when I was looking at colleges, I wasn't looking too much at what academic programs were available, just that I knew I wanted, kind of like Ellie, a somewhat mid-sized school in a larger city that had pretty rigorous academics. But again, there's a lot of schools that could tick off those criteria. So for me, when I ended up choosing Northwestern and why I continue to choose Northwestern and love it, it all boiled down to the people. And I know that that sounds extremely cliche, but it's really true. Like coming to Northwestern, I knew that the people were going to be smart. That wasn't something that I was worried about whatsoever. But people here are also really, really passionate and down to earth as well. And that's a combination that I wasn't really expecting. And I don't think that you see a lot. But to know that everyone around me is like doing insanely creative and amazing things all the time, but are also really down to earth, and there's not a competitive environment whatsoever was really something that I absolutely loved. So that's why I ended up coming here, and that's why I love it still. So go ahead, Patryk.
Awesome. Thanks, Margot. So to kind of cap it all off, I would just want to reiterate everything that everybody said. I think especially about the people, you come here and it might be a little bit daunting that like everyone here is so smart, but over your kind of the course of the time you're here, you just have just incredible conversations about the craziest things left and right, which just make it to be an incredible experience. But for me specifically, it was, being also a first generation college student, I didn't have a lot of expertise into how to navigate college and how to get a job afterwards. And, just being here for 3 years, I've learned so much about how I'm supposed to develop professionally and later on in my life. And that's something that maybe I didn't specify too much in my Why Northwestern statement since it was so heavy in being a doctor, which I've kind of jumped out away from. But it's definitely still made me love it just because I'm so prepared for life after college, but I'm still loving it while I'm here. So yeah.
Thank you all so much for your time today, especially the panelists. Thank you to our audience for tuning in to learn more about what Northwestern has to offer in terms of an experience overall. If you liked what you saw here today, the best thing you can do is subscribe to our YouTube channel where we post new information sessions, panels, campus tours, all that sorts of stuff every couple days. I'd also recommend following us on Instagram at Northwestern Admissions to stay updated. And if you have any questions or any ideas about anything we can be doing to better complement your remote college search, feel free to email at us at ug-admissions@northwestern.edu. Thank you again for everything. And we hope that you all stay safe and well. And thanks for being interested in Northwestern. Go Cats. Bye, everyone.